I was playing the double bass, and then I also played a one-string electric bass, and that was sort of another version of that one guy. It was this was more of a song based around songs. I was writing songs, whereas the upright bass version was all improvised. This was like songs, and I had a drum machine, and this was a more experimental thing. And the idea of the instrument was, I thought I could combine, make an instrument that I could improvise on, but also get all these electric sounds with the effects and things. And that was really the inspiration for it. And then I decided I hit a time when I wanted to finish the instrument. I wanted to build it and make it a reality. It used to be over 100 pounds, so it used to be like 48 kilos. I remember when I was in Australia for the first time, they wouldn't let me to fly on the planes with it, and I had to break it up into little parts. It was a nightmare. And I got home, I rebuilt the instrument out of, actually here's the story, here's the full story. In 2008, I had my van, it was in Montreal, and it was stolen with everything in it. All my equipment, my magic pipe, my gear, everything. So I had to rebuild everything from scratch, and it was something that I'd been wanting to do. Rebuild anyway, but I had to cancel. I was in the middle of a tour. I had to cancel all my gigs. It was terrible. But I decided I wanted to rebuild everything out of aluminum because it was all stainless steel, very heavy. So we rebuilt it. I met a machinist who was a NASA, who worked on the Phoenix Mars lander. He's a NASA guy, and he helped me custom make it, because the first one was just plumbing pipes that I built myself at the hardware store, and this one he had helped me custom make the parts, and so we made it as light as we could, and then I played with that for the last year and a half, and then we rebuilt it again. This one I have is brand new, and it's the same design, but it's even lighter, and we custom made all the triggers out of aluminum and everything. So it's down to, what is it in a way now? About 25 kilos. It's still a lot of stuff, but it's okay. I enjoy having the equipment. I feel like it physically is a challenge to deal with all this stuff, and I feel like it keeps you mentally sharp because you have to physically be moving gear all the time. It's very difficult to build your own instrument. It's not hard, it's not difficult, but it's difficult to master it and make it sound as good or better than you were doing on your old instrument. Because your old instrument, your guitar, bass, cello, violin, especially violin, you got 400 years of history on that instrument for it to be refined, even more. Guitar, you've got about 100 years or so. Electric guitar is pretty new, but still, we have thousands and thousands of people refining this instrument. So by the time you're 12 years old playing a guitar, it's ready to go. You just need to learn it. Whereas when you build your own instrument, you must refine it and get it to a level. So there's a real art to this whole thing. There's a real lineage, and I think it's sort of a Jedi's path in a way. Not to sound too over dramatic, but I only thought about it the other day because this lightsaber thing. Because a friend of mine who saw me play years ago, who hadn't seen me in a few years, he saw my old instrument that was the pipe, and I'd rebuilt this new one with this friend of mine, the machinist, and it's brand new. He says, it looks like a lightsaber. And he said it as a joke. He says, oh, you've reconstructed your lightsaber, your training is complete. You know what I mean? And I thought, wow, that's a really great way to think about it. Now, I'm not saying I'm a Jedi, but I'm trying to be a Jedi. So I think it's sort of like that final stage of not the final stage, because the instrument's always being refined, but it's that part of the process where you're refining your tools and also refining yourself to understand your tools and be in symbiosis with your tools, It's heavy. It's funny because I hated electronic music. I hated samplers. I had a keyboard player in my band, and he had a sampler and all these keyboards, and we used to argue all the time about the role that he should play in the band, because I thought he should just play organ and parts and things, and he wanted to play horns, and he wanted to be a whole orchestra, And then he wanted to bring in a drum machine for the drummer to play along with, and I hated that idea. And I've struggled with it. And then when I started doing my solo act, at first it was just solo bass, no effects, no anything. And then I started getting into the delay and the looping, and then they invented a looping box at Echoplex that I bought that I could make loops and play over the top of loops. And then I just kept adding effects, and then before I knew it, I was thinking about a sampler, because I thought, I'm hitting the body, it just goes thud. And then I was running that through effects to change the sound of the thud, and then to make delays and to make loops with the rhythmic loops. And I thought, what if I sample myself making these loops, and then when I hit this, it's the loop? Or what if I make the sound, like I thought I could make the sound, I could spend time and make the sound and make it different than anything I could do at a gig, and then sample that and then hit that, and like that became an idea to use the sampler as a tool for myself, which is all anybody's ever done. Is all this electronica, they're just tools, for people. But I didn't understand that. I thought that they were the instruments, they were making the music, and everybody else was just becoming a slave to the technology, which I didn't like that idea, But I for myself, I sort of discovered that the sampler could be a tool and all these things. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it really isn't about the electronics at all. I did a gig in California where I was flying from Canada, and all my equipment got lost on the airplanes. And I got there, and he still wanted me to play, so I borrowed a double bass. And with no effects, no looping, no anything, I just played. And I was really rusty. My chops weren't very good on the double bass, but I found that I could still play and I could still perform, and it was very liberating. It was very free. It made me feel very free to know that I'm not a slave to my equipment. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to keep that mentality. I'm trying to keep that train of thought when I have my instrument. I'm trying to not feel dependent on technology or any of these things. I want very much the music to come from me, and I want the instrument to just be a tool for expression. So I've been doing that on this tour. I'm actually leaving a few things behind that I normally really depend on. I used to play these drum pedals, and I actually remade them out of these smaller pieces of metal that I'm actually having to step on. I enjoy traveling alone. I really do. And sometimes in the U.S. I bring a road manager, because I'll be driving the whole tour, and it'll be like 3 months of just straight touring. So it's very simple. But when I'm flying a lot, it's easier to travel alone for me. It's just I don't know why. Just mentally, I find it easier. I've become very good getting around and making quick decisions by myself. It just feels easier for some reason. There's also a certain quiet and simplicity to being alone that I really do enjoy. When I was younger, I thought there was something wrong with me, because I always wanted to be alone. But I started understanding later that it's okay. It's okay to understand that I don't want to be alone all the time. I really don't like that. But I need a good portion of the day each day to sort of just be quiet in my mind and kind of understand. Try to figure out who I am. I'm on the road. It's just to get through the tour, which is crazy, because I play tonight here, and then I fly to Australia tomorrow. Pass through Los Angeles for about 8 hours, and I'm gonna go have lunch with my brother, because and then I'm gonna go fly. So it's gonna be a hard day of flying. I mean, Amsterdam to LA to Australia, but that's okay, because that's one of the uncomfortable parts of the touring, is sitting on airplanes. But actually, I don't mind flying, but this is going to be a long day. But once I get there, I'm there for 6 weeks, and then I have to survive there for 6 weeks and make sure everything works and keep going, and then I get back to the States in January, and I start a tour in the States right away that goes till April and May. So it's lots of traveling. The deadlines that I'm going to try to do next summer, there's a movie that I've been writing for about 5 years. It's almost finished, and it's a story. It's a song. It's a story, and I'm going to play it and sing it. And it's a fairy tale, a folk tale, more like a folk tale about the moon. It's off my last album that I made. It was a song that I wrote about the moon, and and this is going to be the story that goes with that song, but it's going to end up being a whole nother record and a whole nother album and a whole movie. And I want to do that. I really want to finish that. By the end of summer, there's a specific date at the end of summer that I want to actually have the movie finished by. So, and then there's a bunch of stuff I want to do over the summer when I'm home. There's another album that I want to make. There's something else. The album, the movie, all impossible things. Because I don't know anything about making movies, and so I feel like that's why because it's impossible. That's why I have to set the deadline. That's why it'll be done.
Weasel pot pie, dig a little ditch and hold the phone. Weasel pot pie.
Wow, that was pretty amazing.
Fill it all in with butterfly bones. Weasel pot pie. Scribble on days and dribble on drones. Weasel